Welcome to the Big Bear Homestead. Today is episode number 16 in our Predator Control on the Homestead series. So today we're talking about the Coon Cuff. Okay, alright, so now we're switching gears here with the Predator Control on the Homestead series. We talked about our predators. Now let's talk about the tools that we're going to use to get rid of these predators, aka the traps. So today we're going to talk about the Coon Cuff. Now, the Coon Cuff, if you remember, we introduced to you guys in episodes 1 and 2 when we were talking about the possum and the raccoon. So this is your Coon Cuff. This is your go-to trap for possums and raccoons. The number one reason why this should be your go-to trap is because it's target specific, meaning the only thing that you're really going to catch in this trap is going to be a coon or a possum because they reach in with their arm and grab their food and bring it to them. So now that we know what the Coon Cuff is and why to use it, how do we set it? Okay, so before we get into how to set it, let's talk about the parts of the Coon Cuff, okay? First part, this major tube right here is just the body of the trap. This part right here is called the dog. This right here is your trap portion, your spring or your lever. This part down here is your trigger. And then you have your stake, your swivel, chain, another swivel, your airline cable that wraps around upon itself. So, how do we go about setting it? All right, so we're talking about setting the Coon Cuff. Well, the first thing you need to find is the location. And as you can see right here, we got a pretty decent game trail. Okay, those are the things that you want to look for. Now, just like how we mentioned in both episodes 1 and 2, if you can find exactly where the critter is getting into your chicken coops or whatever, then you can set right around that area. But if you're setting during trapping season and you're just trying to keep everything thinned out and managed on your homestead, then you need to go out into the woods around water and find game trails and then just set your Coon Cuff. Now here's a side note. If you have a feeder for deer on your homestead, out in your pastures and stuff, definitely walk down those game trails a little bit that are leading to the feeder and start placing your Coon Cuffs back off away from the feeder. That way when you catch the coon and he spins in his circle, in his catch circle, it won't disturb any of the feeder and you won't interrupt the deer or anything coming to your feeder. Now, setting the Coon Cuff is rather easy. All you do is you take your lever or your spring and you compress it down and then take the dog and push it all the way down and then put your dog in the trigger. Like such. And now it's set. Okay? Now, you definitely have to anchor your trap so that way when you catch the critter, he just doesn't walk off to Timbuktu with a Coon Cuff on his arm, trying to be like Captain Hook or something. How I do it, instead of driving a stake into the ground that I'll have to pull up or cut away every time I change locations, I take the 3/32 airline cable, I hooked one end to the swivel, and then I put a large hoop on the other end. And that way, all I got to do is come over here to this tree, and I'll take the Coon Cuff, and I'll close it down on itself. Meaning I'll feed it through that larger hoop, wrap it around the tree. Now, on these Duke Coon Cuffs, they have almost like an arrowhead on the bottom. All I do then is stick it in the ground at a 45-degree angle, give it a little bit of a twist. And now I'm ready to bait it and lure it. But what do I use? Okay, so what do I use to bait it? Well, let me back up for a second because I forgot to mention one thing when I was talking about setting the traps. Gloves. leather gloves. Always wear leather gloves when you're setting any type of a land trap, whether it's coon cuffs, number ones, or your stuff for your canines, because that will help keep your scent off of the trap. Now, when you go to bait said trap and lure it up, take your gloves off so that way you don't cross-contaminate. If you get any lure or anything on your gloves, you won't transfer that to your traps and other traps down along your line. Now, for raccoons and possums, I love dry cat food. You can get the cheap kind, it doesn't really matter. And all I do is I pour a little bit in my hand, and then I just pour it in the hole. And it's okay if some gets out on the ground, because I'm going to eventually put some out there anyway, just to help lure him in, like such. And then I'll sprinkle a little bit out on the trail just to lure him to it even more. And then I take my coon lure, whatever I'm going to use at this set. Now this is a personal preference, and I tell everybody, you don't have to stick to just one brand. Venture out, try a bunch of different other ones, because you don't know what that coon is going to be interested in that night or whatever when he's looking for something to mess around with. Then you just get yourself a stick, get you a good little heaping on it, put it on the back of the coon cuff right there, and I even put the stick back there, close it up, and you're done. Okay, well there you have it for this week's video on predator control on the homestead. I hope you guys found this informative. If you guys are looking to get the Duke Coon Cuff, a link will be in the description. Don't forget to come by next week when we show you guys how to set the number one. Now that one video is going to be a little bit longer because we're going to go into different set locations and different set styles to be able to set that one. So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming by the Big Bear Homestead, and like always, have a nice day. Okay, so why? Here we go again. And roosters.
Shut up!
Here we go. Okay, here we go. All right. So, no.